Incorporating Movie Magazine will be coming to you on Saturday.
10. Green Horde on the cover.
They're like a lot of things, when you get older, you realize.
The 1960s were a golden age of print, with magazines shaping culture, trends, and public opinion. Yet, not every publication thrived. Some stumbled spectacularly despite bold ideas, flashy designs, or star-studded backing. From ambitious lifestyle journals to quirky niche periodicals, numerous titles launched with fanfare only to vanish quickly, leaving little trace in history. These failures offer a fascinating glimpse into the era's shifting tastes, economic challenges, and the unpredictable world of publishing. So, join us today as we explore 25 forgotten magazines from the 1960s that failed miserably. Eros burst onto the publishing scene in spring 1962 with the audacious goal of exploring love, desire, and sexuality in ways mainstream media dared not. Lavishly produced with high-quality paper and bold photography, and designed under the guidance of Herb Lubalin, it combined aesthetic sophistication with provocative content to challenge social norms and spark conversation.
Amazing. This is like, oh my gosh. This is probably the favorite part of this Disney thing, is this Pokemon.
Featuring contributions from writers like Allen Ginsberg and photo essays on sexuality and history, the magazine quickly drew attention, not all of it welcome. Publisher Ralph Ginsberg faced federal obscenity charges for distributing the material through the mail, culminating in a conviction in 1963 and a brief prison sentence. Despite critical acclaim and a curious readership, Eros folded after only 4 issues. Its brief life left a lasting imprint on erotic publishing, influencing future publications and the broader dialogue around sexual expression in media. After the bold but short-lived exploration of sexuality in Eros, could the world handle another Ginsberg-provoked scandal with Fact? Fact magazine, launched in the early 1960s by publisher Ralph Ginsberg, made waves by daring to challenge powerful figures, most famously with its controversial 1964 exposé on Barry Goldwater, which questioned his character during the presidential campaign. Known for investigative reporting, bold claims, and provocative content,
here is the Beatles part of the magazine. So this section is basically, and well, you can see right here.
Fact polarized readers and drew intense scrutiny. Its fearless approach to journalism, however, also made it a target of libel lawsuits. A landmark case brought by Goldwater resulted in a ruling against the magazine, draining its financial resources and ultimately forcing it to cease publication in 1967. Despite its brief lifespan, Fact left a legacy as a cautionary tale about the perils of aggressive journalism, highlighting the tension between editorial audacity and legal vulnerability in an era when defamation laws could easily topple even high-profile publications. But what happened to the magazine that arrived with the visual flair? Let's explore. Avant-Garde magazine launched in January 1968, arriving with a visual flair that captivated design enthusiasts and art lovers alike. Its covers, often treated as standalone works of avant-garde art, made the publication instantly recognizable, while inside, it explored radical ideas in politics, culture, and sexuality.
The 1970s was a very specific decade in terms of that a lot of changing.
The magazine was designed under the direction of Herb Lubalin, who also created the iconic avant-garde typeface, leaving a lasting mark on graphic design. However, its provocative content alienated advertisers wary of controversy. Publisher Ralph Ginsberg, undeterred by previous legal battles, invested heavily in the magazine, but financial sustainability proved elusive. Avant-Garde ultimately ceased publication in 1971 after 14 issues, remembered today more for its daring vision and influence on design than for commercial success. Founded in 1966 by 17-year-old Paul Williams, Crawdaddy is often credited as the first serious rock criticism magazine, predating Rolling Stone. Rejecting fan mag fluff, it treated rock as art, with essays on lyrics, sound, and culture. Writers like John Landau, Richard Meltzer, and Cameron Crowe got early starts here.
This is the last edition of Movie Magazine that you'll see in this spot, because the team that brings the program to you...
And the magazine earned a cult following among students and musicians. Financial problems, weak advertising, and competition from Rolling Stone and Cream undermined its survival. Williams burned out and left, and although Crawdaddy was revived briefly, it permanently folded in 1979. Its legacy endures in the careers it launched and in proving that rock journalism could be rigorous cultural criticism, even if the magazine itself remains obscure. Cheetah magazine launched in October 1967, riding the psychedelic wave as a music and lifestyle publication aimed at the late 1960s counterculture. With bold graphics, experimental layouts, and coverage of emerging rock bands, it sought to appeal to adventurous young readers searching for alternatives to mainstream media. Despite critical attention and its innovative design, the magazine faced high production costs,
posters and all kind. There's good old Twiggy.
Limited distribution, and intense competition from more established publications. After just 6 issues, Cheetah ceased publication in May 1968. Though short-lived, the magazine captured a vivid snapshot of the psychedelic era and influenced later experimental music and culture publications. But there was another magazine that tried to mainstream music journalism. Let's find out. Founded in Detroit in 1969 by Barry Kramer and Tony Rie, Cream branded itself the loud, irreverent, anti-Rolling Stone. Brash, sarcastic, and proudly lowbrow, it championed hard rock and proto-punk acts like Iggy Pop, the MC5, Alice Cooper, and Kiss before they broke mainstream.
40 million books a year, some are in the 100 guinea class.
With writers such as Lester Bangs, it became the voice of a countercultural audience who valued energy and attitude over polish. Though influential, Cream often clashed with advertisers, and its chaotic editorial style limited its mainstream reach. After Kramer's death in 1981, instability worsened, and the magazine finally folded in 1989. Its legacy lives on in the careers of its writers and in shaping how rock could be covered with humor, irreverence, and passion. Show magazine attempted to stake its claim in the crowded arts and entertainment sector in the early 1960s, offering glossy photography, celebrity interviews, and features on theater, film, and cultural trends. It aimed to rival major publications such as Life and Look, leveraging high production values and eye-catching layouts.
Inside and see what photos. So people used to submit their own photo.
Despite its quality content, the magazine struggled to grow circulation or attract sufficient advertising revenue in a market dominated by established giants. By 1965, Show magazine had ceased publication. Its brief existence offers a snapshot of mid-century entertainment journalism and underscores the challenges new entrants faced when competing against entrenched media powerhouses. As Show magazine failed to rival established glossies, what challenges caused Castle of Frankenstein to fade away with time? First published in 1962 by Calvin Thomas Beck's Gothic Castle Publishing Company, Castle of Frankenstein distinguished itself from the wave of monster magazines of its era. While competitors like Famous Monsters of Filmland leaned on sensationalism, it adopted a more serious tone.
Here's the magazine of fantasy and imagination, Castle of Frankenstein, number 14.
Blending thoughtful reviews of horror, science fiction, and fantasy cinema with features on B-movies, genre classics, and even amateur filmmakers. Early editors included Larry Ivey and Ken Beale, with Bob Stewart later guiding its sharper, more critical style through the early 1970s. Despite its innovation, the magazine never achieved financial stability and released its final issue in 1975. Remembered as a cult favorite, it offered horror fans a rare, intelligent platform that respected the genre. The National Insider was a tabloid magazine launched in the early 1960s, specializing in celebrity scandals, political rumors, and sensational stories. It gained attention for provocative coverage, including a 1964 feature by Marguerite Oswald, mother of Lee Harvey Oswald, titled Mrs. Oswald's own story.
Crystal fall down from the sky. This particular story is about, it shows Nixon shaking hands with everyone in the political...
My Son is Innocent. Despite carving out a niche in the competitive tabloid market, the magazine struggled to match the reach of rivals like the National Enquirer and ceased publication in the early 1970s. Today, it is remembered as part of the 1960s to 70s tabloid landscape, reflecting the era's appetite for sensational journalism. Launched in 1967 as a mimeographed fanzine and reborn in 1970 as a glossy quarterly, Cinefantastique quickly established itself as the most serious publication devoted to horror, fantasy, and science fiction cinema. Under editor-publisher Frederick S. Clark, it stood apart from rivals like Famous Monsters of Filmland with polished layouts, full-color stills, and near-scholarly reviews and interviews.
It's got all kinds of articles. It's got an article about Buck Rogers in this one, and Battlestar Galactica.
Its essays treated genre films with critical depth usually reserved for high art, making it a touchstone for serious fans and future scholars alike. Though it never achieved mass circulation, it earned a loyal following and influenced generations of genre criticism. Unlike many of its contemporaries, however, Cinefantastique survived well beyond the 1970s, continuing in various forms until ceasing print publication in 2006. Launched in 1962, jazz and pop sought to bridge the gap between traditional jazz enthusiasts and the rising tide of rock and roll. Its editorial stance was unusual for the time. Miles Davis and the Beatles were treated with equal seriousness, with criticism and features aimed at validating both genres as art. While ambitious, the approach proved divisive.
Operator magazine from February 1958. It features Tab Hunter on the cover, a story on Pat Boone, and even songs from famous musicians.
Jazz purists dismissed the coverage of rock as a betrayal, while younger rock fans preferred the livelier tone of Rolling Stone. Lacking a stable readership or strong advertising base, the magazine struggled against established competitors like Downbeat. After nearly a decade of wavering identity, jazz and pop ceased publication in 1971, remembered today as an ambitious but short-lived experiment in cross-genre music journalism. But how did the Help magazine can't help itself? Let's find out. Founded in 1960 by former Mad editor Harvey Kurtzman, Help was a humor magazine published by Warren Publishing that sought to continue Mad's satirical edge while pushing into stranger, more subversive territory. It became a hidden landmark for comedy historians, featuring early work from underground comics pioneer Robert Crumb and fumetti appearances by John Cleese and Terry Gilliam, with Gilliam even serving on staff before Monty Python. Despite its creative pedigree,
be aggressive with it. Don't let the paper tell you how to...
Help struggled with low circulation, unreliable distribution, and scarce advertising. By 1965, financial pressures forced its closure. Though short-lived, it influenced underground comics and comedy innovators, leaving a legacy greater than its sales suggested. Published at Temple University from 1964 to 1968, the Insect Trust Gazette was a brief but striking poetry journal steeped in 1960s counterculture. Edited by Leonard Belasco, Jed Irwin, Robert Basara, and William Levy, it took its title from William S. Burroughs' Naked Lunch, with Burroughs himself contributing to the first two issues. Across just 3 numbers, the journal mixed experimental poetry, radical thought, and underground aesthetics, but its niche audience and scarce resources kept it from lasting. Folding in 1968, it nevertheless left a curious legacy, inspiring the folk jazz blues band The Insect Trust and serving as the first home of the bizarre John Fair urban legend. Four-Wheeler debuted in February 1962, launched by Robert Peterson as the first U.S. magazine devoted entirely to 4x4 SUVs and off-road trucks. Over the years, it became a leading resource for enthusiasts, offering detailed road tests, DIY build projects, technical advice on modifications, and reviews of outdoor equipment. It also reported on off-road competitions, 4x4 shows,
It talked about his platoon and how he witnessed his friend get shot right in front of him.
And adventurous travel features that help define the culture of recreational off-roading in America. Published monthly and eventually managed by the Motor Trend Group in El Segundo, California, Four-Wheeler enjoyed more than 6 decades of influence. However, as print readership declined and digital platforms dominated, its audience dwindled. The magazine ceased publication with its February 2023 issue, leaving behind a legacy as the pioneering chronicler of off-road culture and technology. The General launched in 1964 as the first professionally produced magazine dedicated to board wargaming. Published bi-monthly by Avalon Hill in Baltimore, Maryland, it offered tactical advice, historical essays, and previews of new titles, becoming essential for hobbyists who wanted more than rulebooks. Through the 1970s, it was the central voice of the growing wargaming community, often referred to simply as the Avalon Hill General. For over 3 decades, it cultivated a loyal readership, shaping the culture of tabletop strategy gaming.
Went on. So Glenn, I'm not knocking you. And maybe you're right, because
its fate was tied to Avalon Hill itself, and when the company was sold to Hasbro in 1998, the magazine folded almost immediately. Though successors like Operations and Special Ops carried on parts of its mission, none equaled its influence, leaving the General as a defining artifact of wargaming's golden age. Well, the next stop is the Stop of Freedom. Can you guess what it is? Freedom Ways first appeared in 1961 and quickly became the leading African-American political and cultural journal of its era. Founded by Louis Burnham, Edward Strong, and W.E.B. Du Bois, with Shirley Graham Du Bois as its first general editor, it was later shaped by longtime editor Esther Cooper Jackson.
Down their bureaus and curtailing their news gathering. We're getting to a point where there are...
Contributors included major figures such as Alice Walker and historian John Henrik Clarke, reflecting the magazine's blend of political essays, poetry, fiction, and art. Through the 1960s and 1970s, Freedom Ways served as a vital forum for civil rights, racial equality, and cultural recognition, while also supporting international movements for decolonization and Pan-Africanism. Despite its influence, financial struggles mounted, and the magazine ceased publication in 1985. Its legacy endures as a cornerstone of Black intellectual and artistic history, though often under-recognized today. Civil War Times was first published in 1962 during the Civil War Centennial, founded by Robert Fowler in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, as Civil War Times Illustrated. Its timing tapped into a surge of historical interest, offering readers detailed accounts of battles, military tactics, and campaigns while also examining the political, social, and economic dimensions of the 1860s. Richly illustrated with maps, artwork, and photographs, it became one of the most respected history magazines of its kind.
Hospital sites. This is where he begins, here at the barracks, at this location.
Over the decades, it changed ownership several times, eventually joining the World History Group. In 2023, after more than 60 years in print, the magazine ceased its print run and shifted online. By the release of its spring 2024 issue, operations were shut down entirely, closing a long chapter in American military history publishing. Creepy debuted in 1964, published by Warren Publishing as a black-and-white magazine anthology. Its format allowed it to bypass the Comics Code Authority, which had effectively banned horror from mainstream comics. Hosted by the macabre mascot, Uncle Creepy, each issue offered short, eerie tales in a style reminiscent of EC Comics. Early on, it appeared quarterly, then shifted to a bi-monthly schedule, spawning sister titles like Eerie and Vampirella.
To plunge you into ultimate fright. I really wish there was.
The magazine became known for striking artwork by major talents, including Frank Frazetta, Joe Orlando, and Neil Adams, which helped elevate its cult reputation. Yet, Warren Publishing struggled with distribution, finances, and growing competition from both comics publishers and horror films. By the early 1980s, the company collapsed, and Creepy ceased publication, leaving behind a lasting influence on horror comics. Launched by Warren Publishing in 1966, Eerie was a black-and-white horror comic magazine created to bypass the Comics Code Authority. Following the model of its sister title, Creepy, it presented chilling anthology stories framed by its ghoulish host, Cousin Eerie. The magazine quickly became a showcase for top artists such as Frank Frazetta.
Hermione's got the head in the jar. It's Dr. Felix.
Gene Colan, and Steve Ditko, whose striking visuals gave Eerie a lasting reputation for atmospheric horror. The title thrived through the 1970s but faltered in the early 1980s as Warren faced financial collapse. Declining sales and competition from color comics and paperbacks led to Eerie's cancellation in 1983. Despite its closure, the magazine remains influential in the history of horror comics, with later reprints keeping its unsettling tone and artistry alive for new audiences. Tiger Beat debuted in September 1965 as an American teen fan magazine aimed at adolescent girls. Known for its colorful photo collages, gossip, quizzes, and pull-out posters, it quickly became a central part of teen idol culture. The magazine spotlighted stars such as the Monkees, Donny Osmond, and David Cassidy, later expanding to newer pop idols. Its mix of lighthearted features and celebrity focus shaped how young readers engaged with Hollywood and helped define the modern concept of teen fandom. The print edition remained on shelves until 2018, when the brand shifted online. By 2021, publication ceased entirely, ending a run of more than half a century. Its legacy endures as one of the most influential youth magazines of the 1960s. After Dark was a performing arts magazine founded in May 1968 that spotlighted theater, dance, music, and entertainment with a sophisticated editorial approach. Known for its high-quality photography and thoughtful articles, the magazine often included risque content and subtle references to gay culture, appealing to niche audiences. While critics praised its artistry, mainstream advertisers and broader readerships were hesitant to engage, limiting its mass-market reach. Despite a loyal following, After Dark ceased publication in January 1983. Its legacy endures as a bold, stylish chronicle of performing arts in the late 20th century and an early platform for underrepresented voices during a period of conservative social norms. The Realist was a daring satirical magazine founded in 1958 by Paul Krassner, known for its fearless critique of politics, society, and culture. Throughout the 1960s, it became a touchstone for radical thought and
Yeah, this is the Realist News magazine. These are very rare magazines. The Realist was the camera I showed you. Here, hold on and I'll bring the camera here.
countercultural commentary, featuring provocative content that often alienated mainstream advertisers. Financial and editorial challenges eventually led to its closure in 1974. Despite its commercial struggles, The Realist left a lasting legacy as a bold voice of satire and an influential platform in the American counterculture. When even long-lived journals like The Realist lost footing, why did Datebook lose its footing? Let's find out. Launched in the mid-1960s by Art Unger and Danny Fields, Datebook was a teen magazine aimed at America's growing youth culture. It mixed music, fashion, and features on social issues, hoping to capture a slice of the crowded teen market. Though it offered the same mix of pop and counterculture as rivals, the magazine is best remembered for its September 1966 issue, which reprinted John Lennon's "more popular than Jesus" remark from a British interview. The quote ignited a storm in the United States, sparking radio boycotts, record burnings,
I don't know how that light is. I added an extra light. Datebook. These are on the...
and forcing Lennon to apologize publicly. The controversy brought fleeting notoriety but overshadowed the magazine's wider ambitions. Unable to compete with larger teen titles, Datebook faded from newsstands by the late 1960s. Today, it survives largely as a footnote in Beatles history. Launched in December 1965 as Disney News, this quarterly publication began as the official magazine for members of the Magic Kingdom Club. Distributed free to subscribers, it offered park updates, behind-the-scenes features on films, interviews with Disney talent, and family travel articles, serving as a colorful connection to Disney magic between visits to Disneyland or Walt Disney World. Over the years, it broadened its scope and circulation, eventually rebranding as Disney Magazine and reaching a wider audience beyond MKC members.
So if you had any of these as a kid, you're going to remember them. We had a few in our eBay store. We kept this one back. We just thought it was neat because of the cover. This is the Treasure Hunt.
Despite nearly 4 decades in print, the magazine's fortunes were tied to the loyalty program that inspired it. When the Magic Kingdom Club ended and digital media rose, readership dwindled. The final issue appeared in April 2005, leaving fans nostalgic for a publication that once embodied Disney's most personal link to its audience. Founded in 1962, Ramparts quickly became one of the most influential radical magazines of its era. Based in San Francisco, it gained a reputation for bold investigative reporting and an unapologetically leftist editorial stance. The magazine exposed political corruption, championed civil rights, and challenged U.S. foreign policy, especially during the Vietnam War. Its striking design and fearless articles earned acclaim among activists, intellectuals, and students.
In the South during some of the civil rights stuff, I was just one obviously of many people, but everybody forgets Martin Luther King's speech at Riverside Church in New York, where he
setting it apart from more conventional political publications. Yet, Ramparts struggled to survive financially. High production costs, reliance on donations, and an unstable advertising base left it perpetually vulnerable. By 1975, after years of financial strain, the magazine ceased publication. Despite its relatively short run, Ramparts left a lasting legacy, credited with shaping progressive discourse and pioneering the style of investigative journalism that influenced future generations.